Welcome to the No Filter Fitness of Moms Who Lift podcast, where we bring you real people, real stories, with an action plan to match your goals. Hello, Moms Who Lift. We are back with you for another episode of cross training. So let's kind of define, I guess, what cross training is, because some people, I think, may have different definitions.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I talk about for the general public, for someone who just works out for overall fitness, what the importance of doing different things within their fitness cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So if your cycle is in 1 week, let's say from Sunday to Saturday, what's included in your training. If you're working out for general health reasons, really important to include strengths, cardio, flexibility, and mind-body training. So as all elements, again, for the general fitness, unless you're training for sport-specific or something else that needs to require more of your attention. And the cross-training, the importance of cross-training, just, if you take a general approach to that, which is basically why, number one is it's safer. You don't tax the same body parts with the same moves and the same energy systems. Then number two, which is huge, it also longevity. It prevents boredom. You don't get bored when you do different things. You look forward to it. You can do them longer without getting bored because there's a variety. We talk about variety in training, so that's important. And so those two, and number three, I think you definitely get more benefits just because you doing it more consistently, not because of the coaching, but you're gonna be, the more consistent you be, the faster you're gonna get benefit from your workouts, from your training.
Exactly. So in terms of cross training, you can kind of define it in almost two ways, right? You can have cross training where it pertains to the general population, and that is basically a modality that an individual will use, which is a combination of resistance training, cardio-based training, possibly flexibility, mobility type of movements, kind of incorporated all in one, and obviously in different days you would be doing different things in a sense. The other aspect to it is also that is very sports specific, right? So for someone who's an athlete, they go through on seasons, off seasons, right? And typically during their on season, they are very sport specific, meaning they do not do any sort of cross training. They are literally doing repetitive style of movements in order to ingrain certain patterns, so they can actually perform on the day of their, whatever they're doing. Obviously on the off season, that's where their kind of cross training takes place, because one is obviously, injury prevention, like you mentioned, which is going to be the overuse injuries. Two is to get some excitement back to training, back to their on season again, in a sense. And three, it's just kind of, just overall, like you said, boredom, just kind of get them relaxed in a sense in order to train harder at some point. So there is quite a lot of benefits, but there's also very specific application depending, again, what your goals are, right?
Right.
So I think first to start off with, I think, is general fitness, because with general fitness, I think both of us see a big trend with individuals falling into the line of either doing lots of cardio, no weight training, doing all weight training, no cardio, doing all yoga, flexibility, mobility, and nothing in between for that. Yeah. So the idea is that obviously depending on what you like, some people may not like yoga and they don't want to do it, right? Okay, no worries, but you can still incorporate some aspects of flexibility, some aspects of mobility into it, and this way it's going to keep your joints healthy. It's going to keep your muscles, in a sense, a little bit more, not as rigid, not as stiff.
Right. Gives you better range of movement. Yeah. Therefore, you'll get better results even from your strengths or cardio.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then obviously vice versa. If you're just only doing cardio, and you're not doing anything else, guess what? You're going to be very prone to injury because you're not strengthening the muscles that are doing the cardio. Even though you feel great at first, eventually it's going to catch up to you.
Yes.
Because it's still a repetitive movements. It's all repetitive of things.
It's just pounding on your joints. It's also, if you're not doing any resistance training, you don't build any bone density. When you don't build bone density, it's easier to get a fracture, stress fracture, or even like breaks a bone.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely, there's a lot
I think
of
imbalances too. A lot of imbalances I think happen also if you're focusing on one aspect and not kind of focusing on like a whole, like almost like a wholesome, like a whole, fully rounded training.
I know I've been doing, this is something I've been doing for quite some time for my clients, is not just training them when I train them one-on-one or as a group, but rather seeing exactly what they do, where else they do outside of our training, at home or at other gyms, and kind of structuring it so they have a balance of everything. Of course, if someone is trying to build muscle and the main reason is they just want to build muscle, I will do the more of a strength training advice and do them strength training more than cardio training. But if someone is like really wants to learn how to either to someone is training for like an outdoor event or a race, or even like for if they have like if the doctor send them to me and because they have a heart issue and they need to get heart healthy, they need to do cardio. I
think anyone can benefit from a form of cardio because of heart benefits.
But I'm talking about like then I would focus a little more on a cardio application or cardio days than the strength days. So everyone is different, but it's important that someone or you look at your program and you say, okay, those are the days that I train this and this. Because if every week you go by like, okay, I'm gonna lift tomorrow and I'm gonna go run the day after, unless it's like really written down. And I think again we'll go back to that planning of the things.
I think we always go back to planning because what's that word? It's if you plan to fail, you fail to plan in a sense, because that's truly the reality. As much as we think we may know what we are gonna do,
we need to
by the time you get there, you have no freaking idea unless it's written down.
So I've been doing a lot of it for my clients. In addition to just training them, is you making sure that they do different things throughout the week. Yes, if someone just absolutely hates yoga, no, I'm not gonna send them to a studio.
Right.
However, I would suggest adding maybe not a whole yoga day, that's fine, but adding different stretches as they go through the week. But they definitely, especially if they are if they're heavy lifters or if they are heavy cardio junkies, you need to get that stuff in for longevity of what they like to do. So you need to do a little bit of what you don't like to do in order to keep doing what you like to do. So that's a very big point. Cross training. Now, even if you're sports specific, and we're not talking to you about sports specific, but let's say you, again, just going back to like if you want to focus more on building muscle, or you like really that's what your goal is, you still add the cardio so you can get a little bit more endurance into your train your endurance, so you can have can lift longer, don't get out of breath so quickly during your lifting sessions.
And I think, well, I'm gonna say I think
if you're a runner, you want to build up some quad strength so your knees are safe, and strengthen your hips with certain mobility drills, and it's just stuff like this. So the cross training, the application of cross training are huge. And I know, but then another school of thought is people say, well, if you don't like what you do, you're not going to keep doing it. So that's why, yoga studios, people that are into yoga, they have like yoga strength, cardio yoga, this yoga. Yeah, great, but
it's not the same.
But it's not the same.
It's not the same, absolutely.
And yes, you're going to stick to that program for a while, but no, but in the long run, you better find a way to diversify. In the long run, you got to find... Some people have been doing yoga, like, I don't know why I grew up yoga. Let's say run. Some people have been, or lift weights for years, and they never have to, they never
incorporate anything else outside of that.
And they're still great. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that the advice or my opinion is for everyone, but just my personal belief is that when you are cross training, when you're doing a little bit of
just at my house all day.
So So benefits of cross training. Yes, some people are doing it for years, just sticking to something they love, and because they love it, they never get bored. Great. I'm sure there are some individuals like that, but in my personal opinion, and I guess because of personally, I've been trying a lot of different things. Didn't become a master of any. They say jack of all trades, not a master of any, or whatever. Okay, fine. That's fine too. However, as I've been, bouncing from one thing to another and doing a lot of different things, sometimes lifting will take over and I enjoy that more. Sometimes cardio takes over and I enjoy that more, yoga. And it's quite a journey. I do believe that there's a huge market for, for people to try a lot of different things and being able to incorporate them in their workout.
I think at some point, if you are a dedicated either lifter or any sort of athlete, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be that you have to compete. You don't have to be a competitive athlete, but you are into fitness and it's something that you have been doing for many years. There's going to come a time and a place where you will eventually, in a sense, kind of get bored of what you're doing. Mm-hmm. There's only so much that you can do of the same exact thing for an extended period of time before you're like, hey, maybe I should try something else, or I'm kind of tired of this. I have basically two options. Either I'm going to stop fully doing what I'm doing because I'm bored, mm-hmm. or I'm actually going to maybe pick up on things. And mm-hmm. so ideally, at some point, before you either get overuse injuries, right, or before you get completely burnt out doing what you actually love to do, you would stop and think. And I hope this is something maybe for some of you at this point to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I should incorporate a certain type of an exercise or a certain type of sport. I mean, you can try so many different sports. It doesn't have to be, we're not talking about cross training in terms of like you have to do cardio of running, right? Or just only weightlifting or just yoga. You can try out boxing. Mm-hmm. You can try out karate. You can go dancing. I mean, in essence, all of these things, to some degree, you need to be able, the idea is that you have, there is a form of cardio, but
that you may like and that you can try. And again, if you're like stuck and not knowing like what do you try, talk to someone else that does something different, ask them, or talk to a trainer in your gym, ask them, talk to someone. It's okay to to get out and ask people for suggestions of what kind of a cardio, are there. Swimming is a great cardio, kind of like, as long what constitutes cardio, your heart rate has to be up, and it has to be up for like extended period of time. Not the steady state cardio, but something that's sustainable. A sustainable cardio has benefits. You can hit cardio, fine. Boxing is a little more of a hit cardio, great. Just anything that allows you to keep you at that zone where your heart rate is up. I mean, boot camps are great for that. A lot of different ways, but something that you will go to and something that you can commit on a weekly basis, because consistency, it delivers results. Consistency, not perfection, consistency. So having now that a lot of people trying the outdoor fitness, maybe you can combine indoor lifting with outdoor running, mm-hmm. or outdoor biking or outdoor hiking, whatever. Indoor, outdoor, that's a great way to do a little bit, especially while the weather is nice.
Absolutely, yes.
And depending on where you live, I mean, maybe you can do outdoors, all year. So indoor, outdoor is great variation not to ever mm-hmm. get bored. So yes, absolutely. I think that cross training is huge.
Definitely has many benefits. I know we kind of touched base more for general fitness, for individuals who don't, let's say, compete or are not athletes. Now, if there are individuals who are athletes and who do compete in, it doesn't matter. They could be runners. They like to do their 5Ks, 10Ks, marathons, right? You can have people who bike. It could be, obviously you can have your athletes, powerlifters, bodybuilders, it doesn't matter. The concept of GPP, which is general preparedness, right, is basically during your off season is where, especially if there's two realms. If you're a cardio-based athlete, your off season, in a sense, is going to be you building more strength, and that is you're going to be weight training. So you don't really necessarily need to add more cardio on top of already what you're doing, right? But you need to now go outside the realm and actually build some strength. Obviously, you know, your joint health is going to be the most important piece of it. So that's going to be for someone who's a cardio-based athlete. If you are a strength-based athlete and you're primarily focused on always lifting, right? When your off season is, guess what? You need to be able to build up that fitness. Your fitness, you don't necessarily need to run, but you can go on the bike. You can go on, you know, do some walking outside. You can put on a weighted vest, outside walking, even on a treadmill, is going to get your heart rate up if you're on a good enough pace. There are so many different varieties that you can incorporate as a cardio conditioning that is not going to, in a sense, detour you or be so detrimental that you're not going to be able to train hard. Because that is a valid point for a lot of strength athletes, is that I don't want to do the cardio because it's going to, in a sense, affect my gains. Yeah, it's going to affect your ability to some degree of gains maybe during your on season, because you need to have enough recovery for you to train hard enough, right, in order to achieve your goal. But on your off season, honestly, you should be able to, and you should incorporate it, because it's going to help you actually, instead of standing there for 3 minutes out of breath, you know, after completing, you know, a heavy set of something, you're going to be able to recover within a minute and go on. And guess what? If you can recover faster, you're going to be able to actually work harder. You might be able to do more sets. You're going to be able to do more reps, which means you're actually going to get more gains in your direction for things.
Definitely a great idea. Yeah. And so I think the cross training for a competing athlete would probably be whatever you do, whatever you're competing in, do something different off season.
Yes.
If you are endurance athlete, do some kind of strength. If you are, you know, strength athlete, do some endurance. So doing stuff like that will constitute a training, you know, for your sport specific.
And also, I think going outside of your, in a sense, comfort zone, or outside of your sports, because just having fun, right? Like, if you've ever wanted, I'm going to bring up dancing, because some people like to dance. Maybe some people are like, you know what? I've always wanted to try some, I don't know, ballroom dancing, hip hop dance, whatever the case may be. It's not going to hurt you. You're in the off season, go start dancing. Maybe that's something you're going to pick up. It could be boxing. Some people are, you know, they would pick up boxing and they do it in their off season. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great. Go ahead. I mean, I think it's adding that variety to then allow your spark, because eventually, no matter how much you may love a sport, especially if you're just a beginner, that spark will eventually somehow get dampened if you do not allow yourself to have those recoveries, and the recoveries in a sense of coming off a little bit off your sport, not fully, because you're still going to be training for your sport, right? You're not fully off. You're going to be training, but incorporating something that's outside of it that is going to give you that spark, that newbie spark of like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. And not be dreaded by just going in and repeating the movements over again, because that's what it is.
It ties right into the conversation we had about overtraining, because, you know, I mean, and again, and I think that, you know, anyone who is into something heavily will overtrain at some point, didn't even realizing it. It's very common. It's very typical.
Because you get so excited, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do this forever, all day long.
Yes, but avoiding that chronic situation and repeating that chronic situation. So it's important. So that's where cross training comes into play. It's almost like when you like something, when you like a certain food and you just keep eating. Eventually,
at some point you don't want to eat it anymore. You get so repulsed by it.
Right.
You just don't want to.
You're ready to go. So it's the same thing. And then the benefits with food is, if you eat the same thing, you don't get all the nutrients from other foods and all this stuff. So you're not
same concept with training.
Same concept with training. So yes, cross training, thumbs up for sure. Different way, different places, going indoor and outdoor. It's great variety of changing place that you're. Nothing.
Oh, places
if
is
you're
awesome.
cross training,
Yes.
you change the place where you are. How
Yes.
often can you like really go to one place for yoga, another place for strength, and third place for cardio? But this is great. At least 2 places. You go to the gym to train indoors, and you go
have
for
an
your
outdoor absolute
it's a great idea. So that's, I think, very, it's a broad subject, it's a good subject, and it's important that cross training doesn't mean that you just go and fly by the seat of your pants or whatever the thing is. Yeah. Every week.
It's not like right. I think it's being
very
you have to be very methodical, and you need to have a plan.
Yes.
And not just be like, oh great, I'm gonna start doing all of these things and not really have any goal or understanding how to incorporate it. You don't go and start lifting, running, biking all at once in the same day. Much as, guess what? I did the hybrid, and I'm still doing the hybrid to some extent, but you have to be very, there is very structured, a very tightly structured approach in order to be able to do a variety of things without getting injured. So when we talk about, again, cross training, it is very specific depending on where the individual is. If you are a general population,
not talking about hybrid performance.
No.
I'm talking about cross training where you don't, but you two doesn't fight each other.
It doesn't fight each other, right? So yes, you're absolutely.
You're
Well, to some degree.
You don't want to do. You don't. I mean, if you are, you don't want to run so much that you run 50 miles a week, and then you try to lift your PRs and on strength.
Right. Absolutely.
That's the hybrid when you want to be performing at your peak for each and every kind of sort of. You want to. I mean, honestly, if you pick something that you do, if you lift. If your lifting is your main love, whatever, and you want to run or you want to do something taxing on your legs, you know what? You better watch how much of the running you do.
Absolutely.
You might have to pick up cycling, maybe.
Absolutely, so and it's about, again, it's going to be more of structuring and programming that comes into play specifically for that because, and we're going to bring up the point of running. If you love to run and you're going to tax your legs, let's say on Monday, and you've got a squat session on Tuesday, you better believe you are going to be struggling.
Right.
So your planning in terms of program design has to be very specific and on point if you're going to actually try to incorporate that level of intensities between, let's say, a cardio-based and strength-based. Now, if you're not, and the concept again for cross-training is making sure that you utilize that range of cardio and strength depending on where you are in your goals and your fitness level and your athletic performance, that is what I think we're kind of more on the lines of talking about. But I think we're kind of hit it all, nail on that head. Situation, right?
Pretty much.
I know. All right, so if you guys are still listening to us, we hope you are. Hit the subscribe button if you guys are actually watching the YouTube. I know you're seeing us in the car because guess what? We got kicked out from sitting outdoors today. Who knew you could get kicked out sitting outdoors, right? So we're taping in the car today. And if you guys are actually listening on iTunes, please leave us a review. And of course, you can subscribe to the channel and share it with anyone that you think would be of interest to listen to, and of course benefit them to find out more about fitness and help them along their journeys.
We're gonna keep coming up with topics that kind of interest us, that spark our interest, because we, one thing that I've learned and Jan have learned, that if there's something that we are concerned about or we want to talk about, many other moms want to talk about the same thing. So we've been bringing topics that interest us and hopefully interest you. So keep listening, and we're gonna keep trying to bring you topics that you want to hear.
Absolutely. And you can always send us an email to momswholift@gmail.com. Catch you guys later.